In the 19th century, what was the true king of global commerce? You might think of oil or steel, the mighty sinews of a new industrial age. But you'd be wrong. The real monarch, the undisputed ruler of the world economy, was cotton. From the sprawling plantations of the American South, a tide of white gold flowed out, weaving together a global empire of unprecedented scale. This wasn't just a commodity. It was the fuel for a revolution, and its story is one of immense power, staggering wealth, and profound human suffering. To understand the reign of King Cotton, you have to travel across the Atlantic to the heart of the British Empire. Picture the north of England. Cities like Manchester and Liverpool, transformed into industrial powerhouses. The sky is thick with smoke, pouring from a forest of brick chimneys. These aren't just buildings. They are colossal textile mills, the cathedrals of a new industrial religion. Inside, the noise is deafening. Thousands of mechanical looms, a clattering, roaring symphony of iron and steam, work relentlessly. This is the great industrial machine, and it has an insatiable appetite. Its one and only food, cotton, and nearly all of it, over 80%, came from a single source: the slave plantations of the American South. The British textile industry was the engine of the global economy, and the American South was its fuel tank. This connection wasn't just physical, it was deeply financial. An intricate web of credit, woven by the most powerful banks in London, stretched across the ocean. These banks didn't just lend money to British mill owners to buy machinery. They extended massive lines of credit to American planters, using the enslaved people they owned as collateral. Think about that. Human beings, treated as assets on a balance sheet, their value leveraged to finance a global industry. A planter in Mississippi could secure a loan from a bank in London based on the number of people he enslaved, money he would then use to buy more land and more people, to grow more cotton, to feed the hungry mills in Manchester. This cycle of debt and production created unimaginable profits, flowing from the Mississippi Delta through the ports of New Orleans and Liverpool, and into the vaults of London's financial district. It was a system of global capitalism built on a foundation of human bondage. And that is the brutal, unavoidable truth at the heart of this story. Behind every bale of cotton, behind every ledger entry and stock certificate, was the human cost. For millions of enslaved African Americans, life was a relentless cycle of forced labor under the most horrific conditions. From sunup to sundown, they toiled in the fields, planting, tending, and harvesting the crop that made others rich. Their lives were dictated by the overseer's whip and the planter's balance sheet. The cold, efficient language of finance receipts, collateral, futures contracts obscured a reality of backbreaking work, family separations, and systemic violence. We see the somber, haunting images of their labor, and we must juxtapose them with the sterile, ordered world of the counting houses in London and New York. This was the stark paradox of the 19th century. Modern industrial capitalism, with all its talk of progress and innovation, was inextricably linked to the ancient brutality of slavery. One could not exist without the other. The immense wealth generated by King Cotton was paid for with the sweat, blood, and stolen freedom of millions. For decades, Southern planters believed their position was unassailable. "You dare not make war on cotton," a Southern senator famously declared. "No power on earth dares to make war upon it. Cotton is king." They believed the world's dependence on their crop made them invincible. If the supply were ever threatened, they reasoned, Great Britain's economy would collapse, forcing them to intervene on the South's behalf. This catastrophic miscalculation led directly to the American Civil War. When the war began in 1861, the Union blockade cut off the flow of cotton to Europe. A cotton famine swept through Britain, causing widespread unemployment and hardship in the mill towns. But the world did not collapse. Instead, it adapted. The very financial system that Cotton had built was now used to find a replacement. British capital, once poured into the American South, was now vast new investments flowed into Egypt and India, transforming their agricultural landscapes to produce the cotton that British mills so desperately needed. The global supply chain, once so rigidly fixed on the American South, was rewired in a matter of years. The planters' great gamble had failed. King Cotton was dethroned. So what is the legacy of this fallen king? The American Civil War ended slavery, but the financial architecture it helped create endured. the systems of global credit. Commodity futures and industrial-scale production became the blueprint for the modern economy. The story of King Cotton serves as a powerful reminder of how interconnected our world has always been, and how a single commodity can shape the destinies of nations and the lives of millions. But it's also a cautionary tale. It teaches us that economic indispensability does not grant political sovereignty. It shows how quickly global systems can pivot when faced with a crisis, and how those who believe themselves to be the center of the world can suddenly find themselves on the periphery. The empire of cotton is gone, but the echoes of its rise and fall continue to shape the world we live in today. Thanks for watching, and if you found this history as fascinating as I do, make sure to subscribe for more.